Okay, howdy. So, before we do game reviews, I wanted to just do a quick video around the basics of how we want to play and kind of like give you guys a guideline to achieve that, basically. And maybe give you guys some patterns to look for while we're playing to inform your decisions mid-game. So, with that said, the first thing I wanted to go over is just something really basic regarding the court and distances and how we can take advantage of certain distances to get an out or get an outcome. Alright, so this is basically our basic distances when we're at the attack line. 7 meters in a straight line, 8 meters if you're going from a left or a right wing into the center, and then if we've got a big cross, it's 10 meters. And what we can see here is the reaction times for the ball to travel that distance at a speed of 105 kilometers an hour, which is basically the speeds that the best throwers in international tournaments will be throwing. That might be one person on a team, or maybe like 3 people in the tournament. Or for us in Australia, it'd be like a Craig Payne. It would be Nathan Thatcher or Andrew Spokes, stuff like that. So those are the reaction times that you've got to basically react to the ball speed. So as you can see with the 10 meters one, 0.34 seconds. That's actually not too bad. Like that is a reactable throw, right? That is something that we can consistently catch, and that's why we don't like in isolation big crosses, right? Or even big throws like from like the back of the court all the way across, right? Because those are very catchable things, and it's very consistent that your like physiology will react under that time frame. Okay, so this is manageable, right? Once we start getting to like 0.27, 0.4, quarter of a second, still manageable, but not quite as consistent, right? This one's starting to get a little bit hard, and then with the 8 meter one, the thing that kind of helps the throwers out there is that the ball's on an angle. It kind of makes it harder to catch when it comes in. So even though the time is slightly higher, so we get a slightly more time to react, the actual angle on the ball kind of makes it a little bit more difficult. So these 7 meters and 8 meters tend to be around about the same, right, in terms of consistency. But in terms of catchability, oftentimes the 8 meter one's kind of harder to catch. And that can, during game, that can kind of throw off our decision making a little bit, because we know that it should be, or we know that this 7 meter one should be an easier out, right? Because they have less time to react. But sometimes throwing straight at someone, like, you know, it's easier to pick up the line of the ball. They can dodge. It's kind of easier to catch too because it's straight at them. Whereas the 8 meter one, yeah, it's kind of offline. You know, it's kind of harder to read the thrower's body frames or body angle of where they're going to throw. So yeah, oftentimes the cross, the kind of like 8 meter throws a little bit better. But in terms of reaction time, 7 meters, right? It's kind of, in terms of the average human, kind of getting hard to be consistent with that, right? So those kind of distances, our basic ones, and what we're looking for in game. Alright, and then once we start getting to this like 5 meter and 3 meter, this is when we're looking at like rushbacks and suicides. And one of the reasons why we prioritize rushbacks so much, right? And for those that don't know what a rushback is, if there's people say let's do this. Oops. Let's do. Okay. So your left wing, say the left wing is just thrown, right? And we want to rush back, right? Which is basically just running at them. And we want to close the distance from 7 meters down to 5. Right? And the reason why this is such a high value play is the reaction time. 1.7 seconds, 0.17 seconds is kind of a break point even for elite athletes. Like, this is starting to get to the point where you can't react at all, and even to react in that time consistently is just, not really a thing. You get elite athletes at the Olympics who can react this fast, but again, it's not a super consistent thing where they can replicate it. Say every start of like a sprinter's race, they can't replicate that time every single time. Like, it's just not a thing. So once we start getting into these 5 meters and 3 meters, that's a really big deal for us, because even if you don't have a massive throw, that's still sitting in that pocket or that window where you can get anyone out, really. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to go over was just basic zones on the court. Basically, the lighter the color, the safer you are. The darker the color, the more dangerous that area on the court is. If we were to add, okay. So basically, what this is saying is, good to draw. Basically, what this is saying is, on defense, the safest place to be is in the center. Sorry, it's really hard to see. And then the most dangerous spots are on the wings. And this is why most of the time the wings get the ball, okay? Because they're locked into a corner. So we give them the ball, and then the safest place is in the center. However, the way it kind of works is that center bit ends up being kind of a difficult spot to play, because there's not much room there and the balls can come from anywhere. Alright? So even though it's the safest place, it's one of the positions that you have to have the most awareness. So sometimes that can be a bit counterintuitive, where you see a center go out a lot, even though realistically that's the safest place on the court. So you're kind of like, well, why is that happening? And that's just basically when you overlay the different scenarios, they're just, the ones kind of that have to pay the most attention and have to be looking multiple directions, read body language, all that stuff. Whereas the wingers, they've got a ball, they can protect themselves, and that kind of makes life easier for them. However, if we were to take the balls off the wings, all of a sudden we'd see a bit of a different story, because they've got nowhere to dodge. Basically, they're capped by the lines, Right? So, in a sense, if we took balls out of the equation, the wings would be in a bit of trouble. But once we put balls on the court, it kind of changes a little bit, and the centers start having a bit of a rough time. And obviously on the red lines, that's if we're attacking. So, obviously the wingers throw in. That makes it a bit rough. You can, usually only block in one direction, so if they were to both throw at the same time, you're in a bit of trouble, right? So I think that makes kind of normal sense. And then the other spots, so for instance, this orange area we kind of call the mid-range, I guess. And against kind of like lower ranked teams or teams that quite aren't as strong, this isn't a big deal. You can kind of marry this into the yellow section. But once we start getting against people with bigger throws, international level, this is kind of an area that you don't want to get stuck in, because oftentimes it's going to lead to you getting out or your teammate getting out, one way or another. Whether it be, a wing getting stuck here, a center getting stuck here, a rebound catch, just multiple things, rebound hit. There's multiple things that can go wrong in this kind of area, where reaction times are either good or bad, depending on whether you're on offense or defense. So this is a bit of a rough area. Once we play against better teams, this becomes more and more of a problem, and so that's why we have a bit of a focus on, throwing the ball and then just getting out like as fast as possible, and that's going to mitigate a lot of deaths, basically. All right. Okay. The next point is our basic formation when we've got 6 people. So in the blue, we can see your average low ranked team. They'll probably play something like this, and then once they get a bit better, a medium ranked team to a strong ranked team might do something like this. I'll bring the wings up. Okay. And this will be how the majority of players, or almost all players, will have learnt to play dodgeball with this kind of setup. It's pretty solid to start off with. That's a solid setup, right? There's not much wrong with it. The wingers are usually in a pretty good position. They're pretty safe. But the one problem that they do have is this kind of block of players, right? This gets a bit tight in here. Sometimes you get players that like to actively move around a lot, and what happens is they end up stepping into each other. All right, and then if we're going up to the line, right? So say go up to the line, so go up, and up. All right, and what will happen is we'll be at the line faking the throws, right? And the 2 centers will react, right? 2 centers will react and they jump into each other, right? And then all of a sudden, that's our kind of that's our timing, right? You throw, or you throw, or you throw, and that's kind of a mistake that we can take advantage of, where they've started they've bumped into each other, and now their balance is off. They can't jump back the other way, they're kind of stuck. They're kind of stuck with all their weight on the foot or trying to recover, right? So this is something that happens a lot in this kind of standard formation that a lot of teams play, or pretty much all teams play. And it doesn't just happen with the centers, right? Sometimes the supports jump in as well, right? So sometimes the support jumps in, and it can even happen this way as well if the wingers are playing back, right? If the wingers are playing on the baseline, right? This kind of exacerbates it even more because now you've got these four players all kind of jumping into each other. The wing wants to throw, but like he can't get set because someone's jumping into him or whatever, right? So this brings up a lot of problems on the defense for people who are active dodgers. Yeah. So that's kind of like the base situation for most teams. And how we differ is we play quite a bit more risky with that center player. Given this is quite new, you won't be seeing this in the Oz team anytime soon. This is just has different pros and cons to it. Basically, what we're trying to achieve with this setup is we're trying to give people or active dodgers, right, room to move. Okay, and this right, the right support and the left support, they can come in behind the wing, right? They can hide behind a ball. And it's just basically freeing up a lot of room on the court, so that we can basically stay alive longer. Now, the drawback for that is the person who plays this center role. I mean, I'm not going to lie, it's a rough gig. You've got to be super reactive and just, kind of know what you're doing. It's kind of a role that I'll be playing this year, and basically I'm playing it because it is a new role. We're kind of, to some degree, testing it out to see exactly what works and what doesn't. On defense, the whole idea is to stay as low as possible so that if they want to target the center, the balls have to come in short. So these guys on the back line, they don't have to worry about a ball hitting their foot or dodging that way. They just have to worry about stomach to chest height throws coming in, right? So I'm trying to kind of not limit the vision of the other players so that balls can come through over the top, right? Balls can kind of come through over the top and there's catches there, or if they need to dodge, they can dodge, right? I don't want to limit vision. And the higher up that this center player can play, the better it is for us. So like if I can like play up here, that's crazy good, right? Insane value. And my whole objective, right? I'm not going to be catching anything, but my whole objective is to draw balls at me. And specifically, how do I show this? So bring these guys up. Specifically, I want to absolutely mess with their offense, right? So what generally happens is the team will make a call, left, right, center, throw, okay? But what happens is when they come up to the line and I'm sitting up here, it's asking them a question like, are you going to go with that center throw straight down? Or, maybe I'm like this. And I'm asking the question to the winger, like, oh, are you sure that, like, obviously you've already made a call, but are you sure you don't want to change that call and just go for me? Right? And this is kind of putting doubt in people's minds, right? They get to the line and now they're like, oh shit, do we have to change our plan because this guy is like not where we thought he was going to be, and he's staying up. Maybe from their perspective, this looks like something fucking stupid, right? And now they're like, shit, like, do we change throw or what? And now what ends up happening is if they do change their plan, well, they've just wasted time and they're under threat of getting a play ball call, right? So then all of a sudden they've gone to coming up to just throw one ball. Now they have to throw two. And that's, you know, if the plan works, right, and we delay them, then that's awesome. If the plan doesn't work, then that's fine. The next kind of layer to that is I want to try and force a wing to throw at me. Right? So if they call a center throw, I want to kind of like mess that up and force a winger to throw at me. And the reason why I want to do that, right, is the kind of pattern, the pattern of play that comes out, right? So let's just, for instance, like do something crazy. Like I'm never going to get this far up, but I would try, but I'm never going to because it's just not possible to react to the throws. But let's just say I draw the ball, right? So he throws, okay? Doesn't matter whether it hits me or not, he throws, right? The response is left wing, right? Their response, center, right? Our response, right wing, okay? And then their response, left wing. See how on this one, right? We got a short one, and then 7 meter, 8 meters, right? 8 meters, and then 7. And this kind of plays out across the entire court. That's not bad, but what happens if we do a middle? So say I'm back here, okay? And they throw middle first. It goes middle, right? The response, right? And their response. And then we've got this big cross court which we don't like, right? We hate that big cross court, right? That's the one that can get caught. Yeah, that's the one that can get caught real easy. And you know, it's the exact same if we try and do it on the other side, right? If we try and change it, right, the same pattern comes up, big cross court, and we don't really want that. Okay, so just to recap, okay, we kind of want to sit up, draw the ball into us, mess with their offense, okay, and draw a throw from the wing. That's basically this game plan. It's pretty, not gonna lie, it's pretty hard to do. And most of the time I'm gonna be behind the attack line trying to stay low. Whether it be over here or over here. Okay. That's kind of gonna be how it works out. Now, there's some nuances to this with the other players along the back line. So these three here. What could happen? Say if I'm moving over here, right? You've got the option now. You can come behind this wing, right? You can come behind this wing. It's completely fine. Like if you're scared of this, sorry, if you're scared of like this, right? You've got the option to dodge. You've got the space, right? This is where this strat kind of works out. We've got the space, right? All this space. All of a sudden you've got all this space to dodge, right? Does that make sense? So while we've got the trade-off of the center being like really in a dangerous position. Like, it's not going to be unreasonable, or it's going to be pretty common that I'm going to go out pretty early on. Right, so just say I go out, and then we're back to kind of our default normal positions. But the longer I can stay in and force these things to happen, and give us repeat attacks, then the better it's going to be for us over the long run. Yeah, so it's basically our basic defensive formation that we'll be running this year, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. The one thing I kind of want to fix that's been happening is the person that's usually behind me tends to sneak off to the side like that. I'd really prefer that not to happen, like until the throw's coming in. So like they throw and then you decide to dodge that way, that's fine. But before then, I don't want you to be like starting off to the side, because then you're hampering the left support. Like, he's only got one way to dodge. You've got this ball coming in, it could ricochet and bounce off. Like, there's a lot of problems. So when you're playing in that center kind of support role, you've really got to be playing in the center first and then moving when the throw comes in. And that's kind of the same for the left and right support. You're kind of playing that zone, and then when the throw comes in, right, or you're feeling like they're targeting you, then you can move. Right, everyone's got this huge area on the court to move. Right, and the wingers, you're kind of locked either like on the attack line or like just below it. Right, I don't want to see the wingers on the baseline. That's shit. Right, it's not good enough. Have to be up a little bit and providing space for everyone else to dodge. Alrighty, so the last thing we've got to go over is just basic patterns of the game that we're going to see a lot and that we can take advantage of. Yeah, so I'll try to keep this short and concise, but yeah, kind of doing it on the fly. So yeah, so basically what we can see here would be our basic attack at the line. So 3 people, this is pretty standard. Obviously the best result in this situation is a center throw, right, because it can go anywhere at a relatively short distance, and that's kind of like the first best option. Okay, and by way of retaliation, the best defense against that are wingers kind of either pre-throwing or countering as soon as that throw comes in, right? And then, you know, the play is kind of extended on from there to where now it's asking either our wingers or the opposition wingers questions of like, you know, are they faking too much, or are they faking too early? Are they paying attention? Because then we're seeing if this one comes in fast enough, right? Or if it doesn't come in at all, in which case the defensive just flat out won. And if it does come in and it gets an out, well then the offensive has won, right? So that's that first basic pattern that we're going to see. And then as kind of like a center series, say you're a center and you're coming up and you're throwing a lot, right? And then all of a sudden, you know, just for example, let's say the left winger starts countering you and he's like a really good winger. Doesn't matter what you do, just seems to keep like hitting you, right? You kind of ask yourself, well, what are my options in that scenario where it just feels like it doesn't matter what I do, they just keep hitting me, right? you've kind of got two options. One is, well, three options. We've got three options, right? You can call your wing in to help, so you start doing a wing throw to straight up, right? And that's going to help against, say he's pre-throwing. He pre-throws and then this throw comes in real fast, and like he doesn't have time to regain his balance from his throw to catch it, or along those lines, right? The other one is you can start throwing in fakes. So you come up, you fake, he throws, you get a free block in, and then you got 4 balls, and then you basically get to double someone for free. You can double him back, right? Or you can make him feel bad, double his teammate who's usually next to him, and then he can't do anything about it. Make him put the pressure on him, like he's wasted that ball, and now it's his fault, kind of thing, that his mate's gone out. The other option is to do something like this, right? Is to move over. And now when you come up to throw, if he wants to pre-throw or he wants to try and counter you, you've extended this distance to a point where you can now react to it in time, to block, to catch, whatever you like, right? And in most cases, against most teams, this is going to be a nice thing to do because there's few teams with players with big enough arms to pull the cross off, basically. So this is a good thing to do. Once that wing starts hammering you a lot, you can start moving over and extending distances, and then that kind of swings probabilities into your favor a little bit. Yep. So that's basically it for like that first all together in a line, kind of dealing with wing pressure and whatnot. So the next two scenarios are something like this. Okay, mirrored. Now this can happen before, this kind of pattern can happen before or after the throw. And basically what we've got to take advantage of here is this length and distance. Okay. So much like how we moved our center player over to create an advantage, this is basically the same thing, but with a winger. So now this is kind of like our free counter or our free throw, because this guy's distance to throw back is too far, right? So we can throw and then we get a free dodge or a free catch off that extended play. Okay, and that's basically the same on the other side. It's extended. This one's a bit harder. Again, can happen before or after the throw, and it's just a bit harder because the distance to the wingers who have usually got the ball is, it's short, and it's hard to take advantage, especially if they've still got a ball. There's not much of an opening here. Where this kind of breaks apart is, let's say, how can we do this? Say this was like a double or something. This is like a double and they missed. Well, then we've got this kind of like, actually you wouldn't even want to do it that way. You'd want to do it the other way. You'd want to do this. Alright, you've got this kind of like double rush back kind of scenario going on. That's kind of what's going to happen with that one, basically. If it's a single throw, I mean, this is catchable, right? If this is before the throw, these are catchable. So that's kind of where that lets down a bit. Like that center is just kind of messing himself up a little bit. Okay. This is not ideal, right? This isn't an ideal one, but This is kind of like a long cross, and then the replies just aren't going to be there in time because of the distance. Again, if this is a double, right, then we're looking at a nice rush back. Okay, that's kind of how that works. And it's the same thing, just mirrored on the other side. Okay, we talked about that. And then the last thing is basically our advanced attacking concept. So we talked about moving over to extend the distances, right? And if that again isn't working, then we can also adopt this tactic to where this center player is covering the throw, is looking to catch. Okay, this center player is keeping in mind that he wants to keep this in line, right, with the winger. So he's throwing from the middle. He's at the attack line basically, and he's got license to throw as hard as he wants at anyone along here. And then this winger's locking down, and this winger's trying to lock down and affect this throw, make it slower. Okay, so that the center has a chance to catch. And any kind of retaliation is backed up. Okay, is backed up by our supports. Oops. So our supports, they're backing us up. Any kind of retaliation, right? If the catch doesn't stick, we get a rebound. Okay, if he throws, you get a rebound. If he throws, we get a rebound. If he throws, we get a rebound. Okay, so everyone's kind of backing each other up in this situation. This is something you won't see anywhere outside of our team, to be honest. This is a strat just for us. Call it an overload, a left overload or a right overload. But yeah, this is basically just something that we're going to be running. Other teams won't be doing this at all. And we're just going to see how it goes. The hardest part of this will be getting our center to be in line, right? And having our supports, having our supports being up far enough to take advantage of any deflections and like actually pressuring the people that are going to counter us. All right, they're going to be asking the question: if your throw's off by a little bit, it's going to be a catch, kind of thing. That's what we've got to be pressuring the defense with. And on the note of pressure, just want to talk very, very quickly about how we're going to be beating teams that are better than us or teams that are very good on our level when we don't have big throwers. So a lot of teams will have at least one person that's got a big arm, and that's how they're going to get all their outs. Or they might have fast players with a decent arm who can rush back up the court. Like I said, take advantage of the distances and the reaction times to get outs. But there's other things that we can do against better teams to give us an advantage. And part of that is applying pressure. So having part of that is having this center player, right? Ask questions of them when they come up to the line, right? And saying, you know, you've made your plan. Are you going to change it? If you throw at me, right, from the wing, well then we're going to get optimal patterns. Okay, we're going to get optimal patterns. And then also, okay, if you don't decide to throw at me, or then you're throwing at people that have extra space to dodge, right? They've got ample space to dodge. And another layer on top of that pressure, right, is if they're on a wing and they throw a cross, right, and it's too high, it could be a catch, right? So we're kind of layering these different forms of pressure to where they have to perform, they have to make decisions, right, in a fast amount of time, and then when they go to execute, they have to execute well. They can't have balls going high, you know, or wide, because then we're either going to get a catch, we're going to get, you know, optimal patterns of play, or we're going to get repeat attempts at the line to get them out. And these little things, although they don't seem like a lot, go a long way to forcing mistakes from other teams, right? And those mistakes, like I said, they're small, right? Forcing the wing to throw, forcing high throws, forcing them to change plans at the line, opening them up to like counters, little things like that when they're on offense. And then also when we go into offense, you know, little things where we have that center in the middle protecting, right? And then blasting, right? Putting pressure on the wingers to make a play. You know, using fakes is something to bring up the pressure, right? We're getting people to move, right? And jump into each other, right? Affect their balance, make it so that they're stuck in a certain position for, you know, half a second. We can get a throw off. All these little different ways to pressure people, that's kind of how we're going to beat the better teams. But to take advantage of that, we're going to have to know all these little patterns and what everyone is expected to do during the game, basically. So, you know, if you have to watch this video a couple times just to understand what we want to do, and then, you know, by way of when we're playing, we can do some on-court coaching, or during the game reviews, we can review what we did well that week, what we didn't, and try and hone in over the next 11 rounds to try and get to like a good level of dodgeball that we can all just be like, yeah, man, we had a good season and we got better as the season went on, and, you know, maybe we can place high this year, you know, as opposed to mid-table last year. You know, improvement is basically our metric, right? That's for me anyway. Winning isn't everything. That's not necessarily, like, winning is fun, right? But it's not the only way to have fun and enjoy ourselves when we're there playing. Improving at the game is a way to have fun as well, and so that's why we should be looking at this stuff and trying to commit it to memory and trying to use it in game. Okay, that's it for this I guess video guide. Hopefully you enjoy the information and find it useful, and we can put it into practice.